You've been on this kick lately about art and philosophy and really digging into those big questions about life.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about this YouTube video you sent over finding light.
Right.
What about that title pulled you in?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Light often symbolizes like knowledge and truth,
Hmm.
even hope.
Wow.
Like it suggests that maybe, just maybe, there's something illuminating to be found in the midst of, all the complexity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this artist certainly doesn't shy away from the complexity.
Right.
Um, the video starts with this really strong statement about human potential and spirituality, even referencing C.S. Lewis's journey from atheism to faith.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, are they suggesting that we all have this capacity for profound transformation, like just within us? What are your initial thoughts about that?
I think that's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the idea that truth, particularly about ourselves and our place in the world, it's rarely something that we just like stumble upon.
Hmm.
It often requires like a journey,
Yeah.
a willingness to question what we think we know
Hmm.
and be open to like new perspectives.
Oh, I like that.
And just like Lewis's experience, it can be a process of moving from a place of skepticism to one of belief.
Okay, so we're talking about actively seeking truth here,
Yes,
not just accepting what's on the surface.
exactly.
And speaking of digging deeper, the artist brings up Francisco Goya, the Spanish painter,
Yeah.
specifically his etchings of the Spanish Inquisition.
Right.
And they see echoes of those times in our own, mentioning things like corruption and a need for humanity to wake up.
Hmm.
It's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah.
Can you give us some context on Goya and why his art might still resonate with us like centuries later?
Yeah. So Goya lived through a really tumultuous period in Spanish history.
Mm.
The Inquisition, which he witnessed firsthand, was a time of intense religious persecution where people were punished for their beliefs.
Wow.
His art often served as a form of social commentary,
Oh,
a
interesting.
way to expose the hypocrisy and brutality he saw around him.
So just like Goya used art to challenge the norms of his time, this artist is trying to do the same thing now.
Yeah. And I think
It's a powerful thought.
it is.
It makes you kind of wonder what urgent truths we might be blind to today.
Exactly. And it highlights the enduring power of art to hold a mirror up to society,
Yeah.
reflecting both its beauty and its flaws.
Right. And it's not just about creating something aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
It's about sparking conversation, maybe even prompting action.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what really struck me is how this artist is going beyond a typical gallery exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking a 200-page catalog
Mm-hmm.
and autobiographical audio immersive experience. Even their studio space is part of it.
Wow.
Like they're building this whole world around these ideas,
Yeah,
wouldn't you say?
definitely. And I think what's so fascinating here is how the artist is using multiple mediums to engage the viewer on different levels.
Okay.
It's not just about seeing the artwork, it's about immersing yourself in this multisensory experience that encourages like a deeper reflection.
Right.
They're inviting us to explore their world and in doing so perhaps discover something about ourselves.
Right. And speaking of reflection, one of the most prominent themes in the video is this idea of illusion versus reality.
Mm-hmm.
The artist uses all these metaphors: theater dreams, parchment ponds,
Yeah.
even this phrase, shrouds of illusion.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying our everyday perceptions might be hiding something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of illusions do you think they're talking about?
It's a question that philosophers have grappled with for centuries, right?
Yeah.
What is real? How much of what we perceive is shaped by our own biases and experiences and the world around us?
It's a big question.
It is a big question.
Yeah.
And I think the artist is really urging us to question our assumptions about the world and look beyond the surface of things.
To consider that what we see might not be the whole picture.
Precisely. And that perhaps there's a deeper, more fundamental reality beneath the surface of our everyday lives.
And it's not just about like questioning outward appearances, is it? The artist also talks a lot about this duality within each of us.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that we have both a worldly side and a spiritual side.
Yeah.
They seem to be suggesting that finding a balance between the two is kind of crucial.
Yes. And that concept of duality is a recurring theme across many philosophical and spiritual traditions.
Right.
In Eastern philosophies, like you have the concept of yin and yang,
Okay.
representing the interconnectedness of like seemingly opposite forces.
Yeah.
In Western traditions, you have the idea of the material world versus the spiritual realm. Or even just that classic internal struggle we all have between good and evil logic and emotion.
So this internal struggle is something that like humans have been wrestling with for ages.
Yeah, definitely.
And the artist connects this directly to their own life, sharing a really personal story about a trip to Rome.
Okay.
They talk about capturing this image they believe is St. Paul,
Wow.
even linking it back to other historical events, like the parting of the Red Sea.
Interesting.
It clearly made like a really profound impact on them. Have you ever had like an experience like that?
Yeah.
That really solidified your beliefs or made you question everything you thought you knew?
Well, I think for this artist, this mystical experience in Rome, it seems to be so central
Yeah.
to their belief in a spiritual existence
Right?
and the power of art to convey these like really profound concepts.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just an intellectual exercise for them, you know, it was deeply personal and
Yeah.
tied to something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, you can really hear that in their voice in the video.
Yeah, absolutely.
They even go so far as to say that this experience was like proof for them
Right.
of a spiritual existence.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how much that one moment in Rome is woven into all of their art.
It's a great example of how, like, our own personal journeys, even those fleeting moments of awe or revelation, can profoundly shape
Yeah.
our creative expressions.
Right.
You know, it adds a layer of authenticity and depth to the message.
And speaking of their message, the video ends with this really powerful message of hope,
Yeah,
emphasizing the importance of seeking truth.
absolutely.
What are your takeaways from all of this? Like, what resonates most with you?
What I find most compelling is this artist's unwavering belief in the power of truth
Yeah.
and the need for individuals to awaken to a higher consciousness. They're not afraid to tackle these big questions and challenge like conventional ways of seeing the world.
And they're not just talking about some abstract, distant truth either.
Exactly.
They keep saying, we need to smell the smoke
Yeah.
to recognize the urgency of confronting truth in our own lives and in the world around us.
Right. And I think that's what makes this so relevant and so immediate. You know, it's not just about admiring aesthetically pleasing art. It's about engaging with ideas that have the potential to transform the way we see ourselves in the world.
It's less about escaping reality and more about waking up to a deeper understanding of it.
Yeah, I like that.
And that actually leads perfectly into what I think is like a really thought-provoking question that the artist leaves us with. This idea of smelling the smoke. What do you think that means for us today? What smoke might we be ignoring in our own time? It really is. And it makes you think about what's right there in front of us that we might be choosing to just ignore. You know?
Yeah.
What do you think? What smoke might we be ignoring in our own time?
I think that's the question the artist really wants us to grapple with.
Right.
And honestly, it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah.
It could be, you know, the smoke of social injustice or the smoke of environmental destruction.
Yeah.
It could even be the smoke of our own unexamined biases and assumptions, you know, like we were talking about before. What are the things that make us uncomfortable? The things that we tend to kind of push aside. Those might be the places to start looking for the smoke in our own lives.
Wow. Yeah, it's like we're talking about opening our eyes to those things, as those uncomfortable truths that we might prefer to just ignore.
Yeah.
Which kind of reminds me of what we were saying about Goya confronting the darkness of his time.
Exactly.
We all have our own versions of that darkness to confront, right?
Absolutely.
Both within ourselves and in the world around us.
It's true. And I think waking up
Yeah.
can be both a personal and a collective experience.
Okay.
You know, it might start with just questioning our own beliefs, being more self-aware, but it can also lead to action, like engaging with the world in a more conscious and compassionate way.
So it's not just about having some kind of abstract spiritual awakening here.
Right.
It's about actually doing something with that awareness. Making choices, you know, that align with the truth that we've discovered.
Yes.
Even if they're difficult choices.
Yeah, it's not always easy.
Right.
But it's about bridging that gap
Yeah.
between just thinking about it and actually doing something.
Taking action.
Between seeing the world as it is
Yeah.
and working to make it a better place.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I really feel like we've not only unpacked this artist's work, but also like uncovered some really important questions about how we see the world and our place in it.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah, and you know, art has this unique power to kind of shift our perspective.
Yeah.
To help us see things we might have missed before.
Right.
And I think this artist's work is like a powerful reminder of that.
Absolutely. It's a call to action, an invitation to engage more deeply with the world around us.
Yeah.
And with those big, essential questions about truth, meaning, and purpose.
Yeah, those big ones.
So if you're listening and this artist's work has sparked something in you,
Yeah.
if you're feeling that urge to smell the smoke in your own life,
Right.
don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Dive in, explore those questions, see where they lead you.
Absolutely.
That's what these deep dives are all about.